Today we are going to be working on a reverse applique sweatshirt. I have already made one sweatshirt so far with this process. I made it with SpongeBob fabric for my brother-in-law. Today we are going to be working on making another sweatshirt for my sister-in-law since they are about to become parents. So first let's go over the things that we're going to need. We are going to need some type of embroidery floss, some type of embroidery needle. I didn't find the size to matter, so anything that you can find at your local craft store should be fine. A pair of scissors, some sort of fabric that you want to peek through a thrifted sweatshirt, and water-soluble stabilizer with a marker of some sort. We're going to open up Canva and open a presentation file. I then resized it to 7,000 by 3,500 pixels. Once you have that open, you can then go into the elements and select whatever letters you're trying to spell out. I'm trying to spell mom, so I typed in M and picked out the frames. I found the framed letters to be a little bit more what I was looking for in terms of shape and width. So I picked out one M, duplicated it, and then made an O. It's okay that the one M falls off the page. I will figure that out as I'm tracing it onto the paper. Nothing too crazy there. I am then going to grab my water-soluble stabilizer and we are going to trace that from the computer. And this is going to be our templates for our embroidery. I had made a mistake previously, which is why I'm just going to use the same piece of paper but a different color. So that way I'm not wasting it, but that I still know where I need to put my stitches at. Yep, that looks about right. Try not to make it crooked, even though it's bound to with me. This is just a guide for your stitches, so if it's not perfect, that's okay. You can make adjustments as you go. Okay, now that we have our design, we are going to make sure that our fabric is in place, cut this out, and we're gonna go from there. Cutting out the design doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be a good enough size that you're not getting close to the edge of the paper, because it's going to create a lot of holes and problems for you later on, which I learned the hard way. So learn from my mistakes. Okay, next we're going to grab our thrifted sweatshirts. And why do I keep specifically saying thrifted? One, because there's way too much clothes out there in the world. Two, I don't know about you, but I'm not cutting up a brand new sweatshirt. So we went and thrifted a very nice sweatshirt and we are going to use that. With that, I've laid it perfectly straight. What I'm going to do is lay my design over top. Next, we are going to pull the fabric that we want to use. Make sure it is facing upwards. I got this from Main Street Remnants. So they were the only ones that had Finding Nemo fabric that Nemo actually looks like Nemo. So you're going to lay that with the good side facing up towards the front of the sweatshirt as you place it underneath. The only problem with my technique that I found so far is that I can't really specify which characters are going to show up where, because I am just going into it completely blind, which is a risk for sure. But because I know Nemo is kind of on this fold, I'm going to make a note of it with my finger, flatten out the sweatshirt. I'm going to make sure Nemo falls in here somewhere. So Nemo's like right about here. Okay, to get all of this to stay in place, before I bring in the embroidery hoop, what I'm going to do is do a running stitch along the top edge and side to make sure that, one, my paper stays in place, but also my fabric stays in place so it doesn't become a problem as I do the chain stitch later on. This is just your staying stitch, so it doesn't need to be super long or anything like that. And then because this is just a staying stitch, I'm just gonna go at it from the front. Just make sure to keep flattening it as you go to make sure you're not bunching up the fabric beneath. And just know you can always restart if need be. You can just pull these stitches out. So it's not a high pressure project like some other things might be. And we're not trying to make these perfect. We are just trying to make sure that we are outside of the lines, that we are just making sure each section of this paper is stable and attached to the sweatshirt. You just want to make sure that the letter falls within the embroidery hoop before locking the other one in place and making sure our sweatshirt is as flat as possible. Before we lock into place. I'm not too bothered by the square knot staying in. That doesn't really make a difference in my ability to get this done. So then we are going to pull more string than we did previously. I know you can make them shorter, but I try to get around the whole letter with just one cut string. I give myself plenty of excess, and that excess can be used for like the O center, so I'm not too worried about it. I always like to put my needle on before I tie my knot. Gotta get wet, like always. And then we're just gonna double knot again. And like I said, I'm a beginner embroiderer, so my technique is not perfect, but that just shows that anybody can pick this up and get this project done within a few hours. I like to have the least amount of string as possible on here. Once we have the embroidery hoop on, we can then start our first chain stitch once we've put our thread on the needle. I always like to start in the top left corner. So poke through, and for me it's gonna be a minute because I made my string very long because I like to try and keep it all on one. So just pull until that knot gets stuck. Double check that it's the knot that's at the back and not extra string. And then we're gonna go in that same hole that we just came out of. And I like to keep my thumb on the one side of the hoop to make sure, or on the one side of the loop, to make sure that it stays in place and kind of in the right formation. And then you should have a loop. With that loop, we're then going to make a next inline stitch. Just gonna feel where it's coming through. A little bit off. There we go. And then you're gonna pull all the way through. And pull slow. If you come across a knot or something, it'll let you know. And then you should pull it tight. Perfect. And then you're just gonna do this. Go back in the same hole. Do another loop, hold it still, make sure it's straight, and then you're going to do it all over again. So poke another hole through. The spacing of these is completely up to you. You can have bigger chains, you can have smaller chains. Mine tend to vary because I'm a beginner, so they're not always the same size. I try my best to make them the same size, but they often aren't. But that's okay. And then you're just gonna do this all the way around until you get to the end where we'll knot it off. After several hours, we have the final stitching done. So now all we need to do is remove the stay stitch and wash away the water soluble stabilizer Then we're going to get to the most fearful part of this project, which is cutting away those parts of the sweatshirt that we don't want. And I say fearfully because if we get all the way through this project and I accidentally cut through to the fabric, I'll be so sad. Let's go wash away the water-soluble paper and see where we're at. First, I make sure it's laying flat. Then I start off by grabbing one of my embroidery needles. Doesn't matter the size, we are just going to use this to stab through the top layer of the material. Make sure you have your scissors on hand because we are going to use them with the sewing needle. So I want to make sure that I am pulling just the top fabric and not anything below. I am feeling on the other side, making sure there's a separation, and then I am just going to use my scissors to try and create a little hole in the fabric that I can then start from. Let's double check that I'm just cutting through. Always good just losing all my fabric, and go as slow as you need during this process. Like, there's no rush. We've spent so much time being particular during the earlier stages of this project that right now it's okay if we take a little bit of extra time to get this right, because this is the accumulation of all of our hard work. You can always go ahead and perfect all the edges later if you don't like how it's cutting. You can always go back, but just make sure you're giving yourself enough space between the fabric and the stitching. As you can see, I move my fabric around a lot as I do my cutting. It is totally okay to cut more into your letter, but you need to make sure that you have a better grip to get into the next section. I'm constantly using the sides of my scissors at touching the character fabric. I'm using that to push down the other side to make sure I'm not cutting anything before I go for it. I don't know what's going to show through. I'm hoping that good characters will show through, but not positive on it. That's the downside to this technique. Like, I really don't know what it is going to be like until the reveal, but it is pretty fun once the reveal comes. Like, you can see Dory pop in here through the M right now. A little bit of Crush up here, a little bit of Martin over here, and I think this is part of Nemo's fin right here. So this is the final product on. It is so comfortable and cozy and a little oversized, which I think will be perfect. The characters are just adorable. I can't even feel anything of this underneath this. So I am pretty happy with how this turned out. For a very easy DIY gift, I think this is going to be a hit. And now I want one for myself. So catch me making this pretty soon for myself, maybe a different character. Maybe the Rugrats would be my preference. Based on favorite childhood show or movie, I would say Rugrats was mine. This is, yeah, I want to steal it from her. I want this.